ஒண்ணு விட மாட்டாங்கடா. வேற இதுலடா
சார் என்கேபி
சொல்லுங்க சார். என்கேபி
ப்ரோக்ராம் சார்.
எஸ் சார், எஸ் சார்.
Happy evening to one and all. I am Dr. Natarajan, the principal of EGS Pillai, Idayatangudi GS Pillai Arts and Science College in Nagapattinam. With the blessing of and our founder chairman, late Chevalier GS Pillai, it is an immense pleasure to thank our chairman GS Jodhimani GS Pillai, secretary Chevalier GS Parameshwaran, trust members, CEO, directors, governing council members, faculty members of our college, and participants from other institutions, from other states, our own states and other countries, for encouragement and wonderful support to organize this kind of webinar. I welcome you all to this webinar. I am very happy to share some information about our institution. Idayatangudi GS Pillai Arts and Science College, EGS Pillai Arts and Science College, Nagapattinam, established in the year 1996-97, only with 5 UG courses under the GS Pillai and Sons Charitable and Educational Trust. At present, we are offering 15 UG, 9 PG, 8 MPhil and 3 PhD courses. In this result, I am very happy to say about 300 students got university ranks. Our institution is affiliated to Bharathidasan University, Tiruchirappalli. Our college is accredited by NAAC with A grade and strives for autonomous status. Through this platform, I thank our additional principal, vice principal, heads, faculty members, non-teaching staff. My special thanks to Dr. N. Kaliyaperumal, HOD of Commerce and Vice Principal, and faculty members of PG and Research Department of Commerce for organizing this kind of webinar. I am also very happy to introduce today's resource person, Mr. CMA CS Sabhavadi. He has completed BCom, MCom, MPhil, ACMA, ACS, BCom, MCom, MPhil with distinction. He has completed ICWA in all India ranks and also passed all the papers in the first attempt. He also passed ACS examination in the first attempt. He also rendered the services to the students community, financially assists students from economically weaker sections, imparting professional knowledge to needy students from rural areas through free education. Currently taking up the challenging assignments like proposal evaluation, financial concurrence, internal control, capital expenditure. He is a positive thinker and motivator. I am also very happy to today's resource person, CMA CS Sabhavadi, is presently occupying the Deputy Manager Finance of Coal India Limited. He is previously worked as HOD of MBA in Chettinad Engineering College. I am very happy to give this information. I hand over the session to today's resource person, CMACS Sabhavadi sir, to deliver a lecture on tax planning for salaried people. Thank you for the opportunities. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir. Very good evening to all of you. Thank you for the invitation to be a part of this webinar. So today I am going to talk about the next 1 hour, the tax planning. Before that, I should say, what is tax? Why tax? The tax is the main source of the income for the government. The government is spending lot of that is infrastructure, to avoid the discrimination, among the people. This tax system has been taken place in India. See here, the tax structure has been formed in such a way. The high income people has been charged very high. In order to make this equality among the people, the tax is being collected. That is a big source of income. So at present, there are two types of taxes in India. One is direct taxes. We all are aware of that. That is income tax. Another one is indirect taxes. Now at present, what we call it is goods and service taxes, right? This is a major source of revenue. Using this income, the Indian government is preparing the budget. There are two types of very important thing. One is public revenue and public expenditure. From where the government is mobilizing the funds through the taxes. How? They are collecting the taxes from the high income group in order to make the equality among the people. So giving some infrastructure facilities, giving some distribution to the poverty people, so giving some subsidies. The main purpose, what is the motive behind the taxes? In order to eliminate the discrimination among the people. So with this short brief, let me go into my presentation. So I'm going to talk about as a citizen of India, so we should obey, we should bound all the provisions, the rules that is made and created by our constitution. So we have to go with our provisions, right? So it is very clear, as a citizen, it is your duty to pay your taxes. This is my humble request. So don't go for evading the taxes. So you will be facing very, very serious problems in the future for unexplained income. That is what we call it as black money. So the government is providing some wonderful facilities, the advantages, the benefits through some provisions. So you may invest something. Through that, you can, that is, reduce your tax liability. So in the in the provisions in the Act, the Finance Act itself, the government of India has extended some provisions in order to reduce your tax liability, utilizing the provisions, rules in such a way. Okay, but the people, what we people are thinking to avoid the taxes. I'm going to talk about how to save the taxes with the right manner, in the appropriate manner, how we are going to utilize these sections, the provisions and amendments of the Finance Act every year. Okay, so let us get started with my presentation over here. So let me start my presentation here. So first, we have to understand the two very important things. One is tax evasion and another one is tax avoidance. If you know the two terms, then you can easily plan. Then comes the tax plan. So what you should not do, what you have to do. So the people are thinking that tax planning is hiding the income. That is suppressing the income, suppressing the facts, concealment of facts. So many things they are thinking that is what there is tax planning all about. It is not like that, my dear friends. The tax evasion, what is tax avoidance? If you understand this concept, then you are very clear. Okay. What is tax avoidance? The tax avoidance is legal because some people, the people having very good knowledge, they have very good literacy rate, but they are looking for the loopholes in the constitution, in there is the Finance Act, utilizing the loopholes in the provisions, utilizing the loopholes in the provisions in the Income Tax Act 1961. They are taking some advantages. This is what we call it as tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal as per the provision, but the objective of the individual, the objective of the company is not such a way you have to go with the Indian economy. So that the people are thinking that so avoiding the taxes, it is legal, but the object is not that is good, that is avoiding the taxes. So let us go with the next one. What is tax evasion? Tax evasion is entirely different. The tax avoidance, the object is not good for the Indian economy. But tax evasion is fraud, suppressing the income, hiding the income. So there are so many people having the unexplained income in their account. What is unexplained income? So if you are caught, if you are confiscated, in that case, you will be charged nearly 83.5% of the total income what you have not able to explain to the income tax department. Please be aware, my dear friends, tax evasion is illegal. So the prosecution, there is the penalty, huge penalty will be applicable in case of tax evasion. What is tax evasion? We are hiding the income. We are showing the very least income, or hiding or concealing the income facts, right? This is what we call it as. Next, we go to the main core of my topic, that is tax planning. What is tax planning is all about? So utilizing the benefits, what the government is extended to you, utilizing the sections, the subclasses. So the government itself giving the opportunity to the taxpayer. These are all the ways you can invest this money, so you can save your taxes, you can reduce your tax liability. So the government itself, they are coming forward, they are giving such a provision, they are coming out of, there are so many new classes, new amendments every year for the sake of the taxpayers. At any cost, the taxpayer, the individual should not get, that is, pinched. That is, the government has to take the money from the people, but the people should not feel that the government is taking their all money. So in such a way, the tax has to be collected from the people, right? Okay. So what is the people, the taxpayers? We people are very literate. We are having such a there is wonderful knowledge about the taxes, but there is a lack. Whenever thinking of the tax planning, the people are always rushing in the last, the 11th hour. That is at the end of the financial year. They go for searching the insurance agent, and there is investing their money. So always they are rushing. The employer will ask for the declaration in the month of February or January. That time only the taxpayers, we people are rushing towards where to invest. In that case, you don't have sufficient time to analyze which investments will give high returns, which investment is apt for you, which mediclaim is suitable for you, which insurance premium has to be taken, whether there is endowment policy or term policy, which is most suitable for your situation. So these are all things you cannot think about that because you don't have the time. So those who plan, when is the right time to start tax planning? At the initial stage, at the starting of the every year in the income tax, we are using the two terms. One is previous year, another one is there is assessment year. What is assessment year? The period of 12 months starting, that is 1st of April every year, there is what we call it as assessment year. Please do understand, my dear friend, what is there is assessment year? The period of 12 months starting from 1st April every year, right? Then comes what is there is previous year. There is any year there is preceding to there is assessment year. What we call it as previous year. The previous year income is to be assessed in the assessment year. That is why we are using the term financial year, and there is assessment year. Financial year, we can call it as the previous year also. The previous year 1920, the financial year 2019-20, the income earned during that there is period, you have to be chargeable for the assessment year 2020. You understand, right? So planning, when you have to start this thinking of planning, what are the investments, what are the income you are going to derive for this year, what are the expected income for the total year, whether it is 10 lakhs. So what are the there is investments option available in the market so that you can reduce your liability. So you have to think in the initial stage of the previous year itself. This year is the year is 2021 is the previous year for the assessment year 21-22, right? There are so many there is changes has been made in the Finance Act 2020. You all are aware of that. The February 2020, Honorable there is Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has come out with a different slab rate system. You can opt for there is yearly system or new system. What we are going to see in this the last segment of my session. Next. So what are the incomes which is chargeable under the head? Most of the commerce graduates, most of the guys, you are well aware that is there are 5 heads of income. So income is chargeable under 5 heads of income. So we salaried people, for the salaried people, only 3 heads are relevant. Salary, there is income from salary, income from house property. If we have some, there is bank FD in that case, so it comes under the income from there is other sources. First is income from salary. Whatever the salary you are deriving from your employer, it is chargeable under the head. There is income from how there is a salary. Section 15 is a charging section under there is Income Tax Act 1961, right? Then comes income from house property. If you are owning the house property or a flat, you are rented it, you are let out the property. You have let the property to some tenants. You are receiving some rental income that is also subject to tax. That is also a part and parcel of your total income, right? Then comes the profit and gains from the business and profession. It is those who are doing the businesses or companies. There is all the companies, assessment of companies, assessment of firms, AOP, body of individuals. All these people comes under the there is profit and gains from the business and profession, right? Then comes capital gains. What is capital gain? If you have the capital assets, you are selling the capital assets, you are receiving some amount, so which is more than there is what are the difference between the cost of acquisition and what amount you have purchased that is capital asset and what you have sold. What is the difference is what we call it as capital gain. So you have to pay that is capital gain tax also. That is also a part and parcel of the total income of the assessee, right? So if any income you are receiving other than these 4 heads, it comes under the income from other sources. My dear friends, so we are going to talk about the very limited to the salaried people only. So for the salaried people, the 3 heads are important. There is just leaving the income from capital gains and income from profit and gains from the business and profession. The remaining, the rest 3 heads, the income from salary, the income from house property, the income from other sources are commonly that is applicable for the salaried individuals, right? So what is there is a salary? Salary we know. So whatever the emoluments you are receiving from your employer, what we call it as salary, right? It includes the different. So income tax department has given there is different components of the salary. There are 3, there is major division of salary. So salary you are getting during the course of your employment and at the time of resignation and at the time of retirement, you are getting some compensation, you are getting some amount which also form part of the salary. Salary for the income tax purpose is includes there are so many things. So that is why the section 2 of the Income Tax Act 1961 clearly defines, section 16 of the Income Tax Act 1961 clearly defines the inclusive definition. What we call it is inclusive definition. Salary means not like that. Salary includes. It starts with includes. There are so many aspects has been included in this the salary. What are the things? Salary includes wages, any type of wages, any annuity, there is a lump sum amount you are receiving for a year, any gratuity, any appreciation, there is any amount you are received towards the appreciation from your employer. This there is another gratuity, any fees, commission. It is a part of your salary structure. So you people are faculties from the different colleges and universities. So the commission may not be there is a part of your pay slip, but perquisites, any profit in lieu of any salaries, any compensation, any performance related pay you are receiving, it is a part and parcel of your salary. Any advance salary, please do understand, the salary is always on the due basis. Okay, so I am receiving the salary for the month of March during April, because it is common. There is a problem. Almost all the organizations are facing. See here, the March month salary will be paid in April, right? So why we have to take? It is on the due basis. So it is due for the month of, that is March. So from the income tax point of view, you have to take it in this year, 1920, March 20 salary, even you are receiving during the April, it has to be considered. It is the income of, there is a financial previous year, 1920, right? Any advance salary. Okay, sir. You might have received due to this unexpected situation, this scenario. So some colleges have been remitted the salary to their employees in advance. Okay, so whether it is a 50% or 25%, it may be subject to case to case. But advance salary, you are receiving the salary of there is April in the month of March. In that case, whether it is a income of the year 1920 or it is the income of the year 2021. I'm asking you all people, this is on the receipt basis. Please do understand, if any amount received as advance salary, so for the next 3 months salary I have received in March, so it is the income of the 1920 only, not that is a 2020, not this current year. Please do understand. Then leave salary. What is leave salary? There is leave encashment. So so many companies, they do have some facility for their employees. They can avail there is earned leave, or they can encash. This is also there is a part of the total there is a salary. Any contribution made by the government, any there is any pension towards the pension scheme. So all are included. This is the inclusive definition of salary under section 17, right? Next comes, so what are the today we are going to see the very important thing. What are the allowances are exempted, and what are the deductions applicable for the salaried individuals? The major theme of this lecture is, some people are in a management side or tax field, they are very aware of these allowances and deductions. But from my point, I am just giving the right from the beginning. I'm giving there is all there is allowances. I'm categorizing the three categories. One is the allowances, which is fully exempted. Some allowances is partly exempted, partly taxable, and some allowances fully taxable. Okay, it is a fully taxable. It is a part of your salary and fully taxable, right? So we are going to see one by one. What are the there is allowances fully exempted? See, it is extended to the government employees, high court judges, Supreme Court judges. So see one by one. These are the allowances. These are the allowances are purely exempted allowances. So no, see, if the employee is employed outside India, see, for representing our Indian embassy, some people there is appointed outside India, they are getting some allowances, foreign allowance, whatever may be the name called, all the allowances are purely exempted. Then allowances of high court judges, allowances paid to the UNO, there is a United Nations organization, compensatory allowance received by a judge, sumptuary allowance granted to the High Court or Supreme Court judge. These are all the allowances given to the top level. There is government employees. These all are there is exempted allowances. Then what are all the things? Partly exempted allowances. This is the major thing I want to focus. HRE, there is house rent allowance. Most of the people, they are not aware how much, what portion is exempted. They are receiving some HRE. Okay, so what portion they are exempted? There are cases they have to calculate the what amount, to some extent it is exempted. So in HRA, there are three components we have to think of what HRE you are actually received. There are some preconditions also. So for availing this exemption, you should have been paying the rent first. If you are living in your own house, this allowance, this exemption is not applicable for you. If you are staying in some other's house, you are as a tenant, you are paying some rent, you are receiving the HRA from your employer also. In that case, they can think about this HRA. There is under section 10(13)(a), right? Then comes special allowances. Special allowances under section. So you are there is a children education allowance. It is limited to 2 child. Per child 100 rupees. 2 child there is a 2,400 rupees. You can exempted. You are exempted. So from the tuition fees, you are exempted. I am not talking about the deduction is different. Exemption is different. Exemption means exempted from the income. For the purpose of arriving the gross total income, there is exempted income has to be eliminated. Then you arrive the gross total income. After that, we go for the deductions. Okay, so children education allowance, hostel expenditure in that case. So 300 rupees per children. It is limited to 2 children. So 3,600 rupees per child. You can avail 7,200 rupees towards the hostel expenditure of your child. There are so many. There is wholefield allowances are there. Some underground allowances there. The transport allowance for the blind and deaf, 3,200 rupees is exempted. Previously, transport allowance was there. So the government has come out in 2017-18. They come out with the standard deduction. They have abolished the transport and transport allowance. So which where you have availed in 2016-17 or 17-18, it has been abolished. Now to 2017-18 onwards, they have introduced the new standard deduction of 40,000. Now it has been enhanced to 50,000, the standard deduction. So that is why there are so many things has been abolished. But transport allowance of 3,200 rupees per month, 3,200 rupees per month is still available for those who are having, there is a deaf and dumb, blind, differently abled people. They can have this, they can avail this facility. There is exemptions, transport allowance, right? Then comes fully taxable allowance. These are the allowances, fully taxable. Entertainment allowance. Entertainment allowance of rupees 5,000 in case of government employees. It is fully taxable for all, but with respect to the entertainment allowance, for the purely government, there is central government employees, they can avail that there is a deduction of 5,000 rupees from the GTI, right? Dearness allowance, it is a part and parcel of there is a salary, it is fully taxable. Overtime allowance, city compensatory allowance, there is you are moving from one place to another for compensating. There is a level of living. So the company is extending some facilities through the city compensatory. We were in Calcutta, now we are in some other places. So for compensating the change of places, the company is extended some, there is allowances. What we call it is city compensatory allowance. Interim allowance, servant allowance, project allowance, tiffin allowance, all these non-practicing allowance. It is for doctors. Doctors, those who are employed in a company, they have lost their practicing because they are employee of the company. They don't have any clinic. In that case, they are getting there is a non-practicing allowance from the company. So that is also taxable, fully taxable. Then transport allowance. Transport allowance previously before 16-17, it was exempted. Now, so transport allowance to employee other than blind. Other than 3,200 is extended to blind, deaf and dumb and orthopedic. There is handicapped employees. They are availing, still they are availing. They do have the exemption, a limit of 3,200 per month. But remaining for the rest, common individuals, they cannot take any exemption from the transport allowance, right? Then comes, this is the most useful allowances, the HRA. I told there is actual HRA, how it is calculated. Actual HRA received 40% of the annual salary, rent paid, there is over 10% of salary. Whichever is the least is exempted. Whichever is the least, three conditions are there. So the commerce students, you are well aware how to calculate the HRA. So there are three, there is a preconditions. The least of these are exempted from, there is income. There is the total gross total income. For arriving the gross total income, you can, there is decrease this amount, then you arrive the gross total income, right? Then leave travel allowances. So leave travel concessions is being provided to some company employees for going for India trip or for availing such type of travel expenses. You can have 2 exemptions in the block of 4 years. So purely whatever the expenses you have spent, it is purely exempted for 2 years in the block of 4. So please use all these things. If you have the travel history, you have all the receipts, you keep with you and you submit to the employer and you avail the exemption of leave travel allowance. Uniform allowance is purely exempted. Education allowance, that is 100 per child. Then daily allowance is purely daily allowance for if you are going on tour. Traveling expenses, it is purely exempted. If you are for the official duty, you are in some other places other than your employer places. For that, you are given some amount for day-to-day expenses. This is what we call it as daily allowance. It is also purely exempted from the income tax. The perquisites. So total income, which includes whether it is a monetary benefit or non-monetary benefit. Some companies are extending there is monetary benefit or in kind, cash or in kind. What is in kind? The company is extending, there is a rent-free accommodation. They are giving very beautiful bungalow. They are giving you very good quarters. They are giving you car. They are giving you some other facilities. So these are the facilities, non-monetary benefited. So we have to arrive the value of the perquisite. It is also included in the total income of yours. It is also subject to that is income tax. This is what that is perquisites. In the case of you are provided the company accommodation, if the place where you are provided the accommodation is less than 10 lakhs population, your total basic salary, 7.5% of the total basic salary plus all the salaries, there is all perks, all there is dearness allowance, all the things has been included. Then you have to arrive at 7.5%. It is deemed to be an income of yours. On that you are supposed to pay the income tax. If the population is more than 10 lakhs and less than 25 lakhs, in that case you have to pay 10% of the total salary as the perquisites, right? So for arriving the perquisite value, and it has to be there is aggregated with your total income, right? So this is what there is a perquisites all about. Then we go to the gratuity. This is the gratuity. The amount the amount of appreciation is being provided to the employee by the employer, right? How now presently 20 lakhs is exempted. There is a 3 actual gratuity received or 20 lakhs, or there is a 15 days salary into number of years served in the company are exempted. Whichever is the least is exempted. Most of the companies, they do have, there is a, I'm working in 2 other companies. Maximum ceiling limit is 20 lakhs. So least of the 3. One is 20 lakhs. Then second one is actual gratuity that is received. The third one is the gratuity calculated as per the Payment of Gratuity Act, right? So accordingly, the gratuity is also, there is a form part of a salary. So at the time of retirement, when you are getting this gratuity, so you should have served the company at least for 5 years. If you are not served the 5 years, you are not eligible to get the gratuity under the Payment of Gratuity Act. Okay, I have not served, but during, there is at the time of death, in between, so the employee got expired. In that case, the gratuity can be paid. There are some exceptions are there, but very generally, so employee has to serve at least 5 years so that they are eligible to avail this gratuity. Now, most of the companies are comes under, there is they have to bound by the Payment of Gratuity Act. They are doing all the measures for paying there is gratuity to their employee, even they have they served more than 5 years, right? So for that, what is the exempted limit? There are 3 things. So you have to calculate. This is exempted. No need to pay taxes on the exempted, that limit, right? Then comes to the very important thing. Most of the people are aware, and the public companies, the public employees, there is a public sector employees, or most of the professors in the universities, they can avail the earned leave. See, the benefit there is extended to them. Either they can avail the leave, or they can get it accumulated and they can encash the leave. Okay, so in this case, leave encashment during the service. Leave encashment during the service is fully exempted, irrespective of whether the employee is a government employee or non-government employee. Please do understand, if the government employee or the non-government employee, they are encashing their leave during their there is a service period, in that case it is fully taxable. It is also a part and parcel of your total salary. For that you have to pay, that is taxes. Okay, let us come to the next thing, leave encashment at the time of retirement. In case of government employee, at the time of retiring, you have the credit of 300 days or 250 days leave. In that case, you are fully exempted because you are the central government employee, right? For other than there is government employee, here there are something, that is 3 lakhs rupees, up to the 3 lakhs rupees is exempted. So the remaining amount is supposed to pay the tax on the rest of amount, right? So if you are government employee, and in case of the retirement or the superannuation, in that case you are fully exempted in leave encashment payment. Okay, for other employees, you are eligible for only 3 lakhs exempted at the time of retirement. So whatever the amount it is more than that, you are supposed to pay the tax on that, right? Then comes, so what are the deductions? There is a entertainment allowance. There are some deductions under section 16. There are 3 deductions. One is entertainment allowance, then professional taxes, and one is standard deduction. The entertainment allowance is only to the government employees. 5,000 rupees is maximum they can avail in a year, right? Then professional tax. Professional tax in a year, this is the tax you are paying to the state government, right? It is not the central government tax. It is it should not go beyond 2,500 per year. So maximum amount you can pay towards the professional tax is 2,500 per year, right? But you can avail this deduction only on the actually paid basis, not on accrual basis. I am going to pay in the next month, so can I avail this? No, you cannot avail. So this is what we call it as, it is professional tax. Then comes standard deduction. This is the beautiful thing. Previously, we used to keep all the receipts of medical allowances and transport allowances. For availing these things, we have to keep some proofs. But here, after once it has been introduced, that is standard deduction has been introduced. So there is no proof, no receipts at all. Directly you can deduct 50,000 from your total income. This is the bonus. This is the package given to you. No need to keep any papers with you. You can directly. So they have abolished some medical. There is allowance which was there in earlier 15,000 rupees, which was there. It has been abolished. So many allowances has been abolished. They have come out of with the standard deduction. You are allowed there is rupees 50,000 rupees from your total salary, right? Now also, you people, whether you have there is 5 lakhs rupees or 10 lakhs rupees, you can avail directly 50,000 rupees from your total. So please do aware of all these income, what income you are earning, and what are the provisions are there with the Income Tax Act 1961. Please do read the provisions accordingly you plan, right? Then comes, so these are all the beautiful deductions. So the taxpayer, the individual can avail. ATC, all the investment, it is payment related investments. ATC investment, ATCC insurance premium, ATCCD, there is a pension contribution by the TTA. We are going to see one by one. So this is we are going to see one by one what is all about ATC, ATE, ATD. This is very, very important sections we are going to see one by one, right? So what is there is ATC is all about. Most of the individuals in India, they are aware of this section ATC. They're very clear. Simply they are thinking, but they don't know where to invest under ATC. So most of the people they go for, they are rushing towards the insurance premium. So please do understand, my dear friends, there are so many, there is the ways of investing under section ATC. You can have the deduction of 1,50,000 rupees. You can have the deduction of 1,50,000 rupees in there is investing in different government schemes that is given by the Income Tax Act. This is the big list is given to you. You have to choose based on your analysis. You choose your investment, which option is best for you at this case. That is why the yearly tax planning is very, very essential. Don't rush in the month of March. Don't rush in the month of February and March. Please do plan accordingly. There are so many. There is my humble suggestion: don't go for endowment policies. Instead, you may have some term insurance. Instead, so these are the things comes under the ATC. Life insurance, there are so many policies that is given by there is insurance, Life Insurance Corporation of India. Okay, so it is a public corporation, has been separately that is passed by this one. There is a Parliament Act, Life Insurance Corporation, right? So Indian government is always having the association with the Life Insurance Corporation, right? That is why they are including this ATC. It is the money, it is going to the government of India only. That is why they are encouraging this type of investments, because the money will be kept with there is a government only. These are the there is a schemes by the government only. Please do understand. Equity linked savings scheme. I'm talking about the life insurance. Instead of going the endowment policy, I suggest you go with some term insurance. It will be helpful for you. So with respect to the life insurance, so you can take the insurance, you can pay the insurance, you can take the policy for your child, for your spouse, not parents. My dear friends, please do understand, whether the child is a major, you can take the policy for your married daughter also. Please do understand. So there are always having the confusion. The people, they do have the confusion whether my daughter has got married, whether shall I make there is a policy on her name, whether it is comes under the ATC. Yes, even it is a child, whether it is a major or minor, married or unmarried, so you can take there is the policy on their name, right? You can deduct, you can get the deduction from ATC, but the maximum ceiling is capping is 1,50,000 rupees. Then Suganya Samriddhi account. If you have the girl child, so the government is extending such a wonderful, that is return, high return is given to you, Suganya Samriddhi return. so Samruddhi account, it is if you have the girl child and they are less than 10 years of old, you can start investing maximum 1,000. There is a 1,50,000 you can invest in Sukanya Samruddhi account, right? So every year at least you have to pay. There is a 250. There is a lock-in period. At the time of 15 years you have to pay. At the time of 21 years only you will get back your amount, but the return is very, very good amount, nearly about 9 to 10% return. Please, you plan accordingly. It is a very, very safe and very safe. At the time after 15 years you will get back the amount. If your daughter is getting married, in that case you can withdraw. If your daughter is go for higher education, in that case also you can withdraw. There are so many benefits. Just you go and you see the provisions of Sukanya Samruddhi account, right? Then equity linked schemes. There are ELSS funds. The equity linked. This is what. So there is a lock-in period of 3 years. So it is very clear. So I'm buying the funds, ELSS funds, sir. So I'm selling it tomorrow. So you cannot avail. You cannot avail ATC in this case. So there is a lock-in period. At least you should have that fund with you at least for 3 years. Then only you can avail the benefit of ATC under this equity-linked saving scheme. That is the best scheme. I suggest you accordingly you choose the best scheme. There are so many mutual funds are in. There is a market debt fund, hybrid fund. There is equity fund. There is gold fund. So many funds are there. So in equity-based fund, not there is debt fund. Only equity-linked funds are eligible. That should be having the lock-in period of 3 years, right? Then comes employee provident fund. You are the contributing some amount and your employer is contributing amount. So the total comes to 1,50,000. Yes, you can enjoy this ATC. Then public provident fund. Another big thing I can suggest you people, if you have the surplus amount, so please do invest in public provident fund. It is comes under the separate act, Public Provident Fund 1968. So they are giving the guaranteed return of nearly 8 to 8.5% guaranteed return. For that, you can pay even if amount also you can invest in public provident fund. You can open this PPF account in either any banks, nationalized banks, or any post office. Please do understand. Even a multiples of 500, even you can save 500 rupees amount also in PPF amount. PPF is the best option. You can get the return, but there is one drawback is there. If you have the surplus amount, then you can invest in PPF. It is a lock-in period of 15 years. It will be locked. What is lock-in period? You cannot take back the money as soon as possible. But equity-linked schemes, if you need money, you can take your money out. Very, very liquidity is very, very high in case of equity-linked savings scheme. But in case of Sukanya Samruddhi, Public Provident Fund, National Pension Scheme, and term deposits, in these cases, there are a lock-in period is there. Okay, in Public Provident Fund, there are exempted. What is exempt? At the time of investing, you are availing the ATC, PPF. Then whatever the interest is accumulating on the PPF amount you are investing, that is also exempted. Then at the time of maturity, whatever the amount you are getting back from the government as maturity of Public Provident Fund, that also exempted. So these are the very beautiful things are there, but there is a lock-in period. You have to keep your money with the government, the Public Provident Fund, at least 15 years. Then only you can withdraw. Okay, certain exceptions are there. After 7 years, you can withdraw for your there is any emergency cases. In case of death or in case of any higher education, in that case, there are some provisions is given. After 7 years, you can withdraw some amount from the PPF. Please do understand. Then comes National Pension Scheme, NPS. So this is a very big lock-in period. So those who are attaining 18 years of old up to the age of 60 years, you can up to the age of 60 years of old, you can invest in a national pension scheme. Okay, but the lock-in period is a very, very huge thing. That is up to 60 years you cannot withdraw the money. So after that it will yield the pension to you. That is why That is the ultimate aim of the scheme. So they are getting the amount from you. After attaining your retirement, the age 60, you will get the money that is uncommitted. Every month you will get the pension like this. That is the scheme all about. National Savings Certificate, you all know about the NSC. Then fixed deposits that should have at least 5 years. Then post office tax saving deposit that should have 5 years of term deposits. Post office senior citizen savings scheme. These all comes under what? There is ATC, right? Then tuition fees, whatever you have filled, not development fees, not capital fees, only tuition fees. Whatever you have paid, you can take. So this is applicable for all the there is parents. Whatever the tuition fees you are paid, whatever you have paid during this academic year or financial year, so you can claim through ATC, right? Then the home loan repayment, the principal amount you are paying there is a home loan back, so you are paying the principal along with the interest. The principal amount also, whatever you are repaying the principal amount, that also comes under this ATC. Please do understand, you go and see all the things. Then comes ATD. This is very good section. You should all know about this section. So if you have the Mediclaim, so instead of going for the endowment policy of insurance, you go for some that is a Mediclaim for your spouse, your dependent children. Here, ATC, all we talk about, please do understand, my dear friends, ATC, I'm talking about the married, whether it is married daughter, unmarried daughter, whether it is major or unmajor, all are eligible for insurance premium, right? For here, if they are dependent children, your children is dependent on you, in that case, you can make Mediclaim, you can pay the premium, there is a Mediclaim policies. So you can, that is claim up to 25,000. And for your parents also, whether they are dependent or not, it is irrespective of your spouse is dependent or not, whether your parents are dependent or not, you can avail this benefit of 50,000. Okay. Next case, your parents are, there is senior citizens. They have attained the age of 60 years. They are the resident of India. Please do understand. So your parents is resident in India. They are staying in India. They are resident in India. You can avail 50,000. Okay, sir. My parents are there in the foreign country. So can I avail? Yes, you can avail, but limited to 25,000 only. You cannot avail the senior citizen ka jo, whatever the benefit it is extended to the senior citizen, you cannot avail. But the normal parents, you can avail up to 25,000. Your parents are in, there is a foreign country. You are making some premium on their name. So in that case, you can charge the 25,000. Okay. If they are the senior citizen, you are the resident of India, then you can. There are both conditions has to be fulfilled. They are the senior citizen and they are the resident of India. In that case, you can avail 50,000 rupees. Okay. The third comes, you are the senior citizen and your parents are also a senior citizen. In that case, you can enjoy, that is the deduction under section 80D, 1 lakh rupees directly you can deduct. And whatever the premium you have paid towards your self, spouse, dependent children, that is parents, whether are dependent or not, you are eligible, right? So 80D is such a beautiful section. Accordingly, you plan. So, right. Let's move to the next one. So 80DD. What is the 80DD? So if you are having any child on a dependent. So in this case, your brother, please do understand, your brother or sister or any individual are fully dependent on you. You are maintaining them. They are having the disability. There are two types of disability. One is normal disability. If they're having the 80% of disability, more than 80%. This is what we call it as severe disability. If they do have the disability, but it is normal disability, less than 80%, in that case also you can claim 75,000. Please do understand, my dear friends, no receipts is required, no expenses is required. If you are supporting them, you can directly claim 75,000 and 1,25,000. There is no need to show this is the receipt what I have spent for them. So here, please do understand, there is a disabled person, maybe your spouse or children or parents, brother, sister, or anyone is depending on you. Please do understand, right? So you can take this wonderful deduction of 75,000 in case of normal disability, 1,25,000 in case of severe disability, right? This is next comes. So DDB. Okay, sir. So my parents are getting too old. They are attaining 70 years. So in that type of situation, the insurance companies is not ready to take policy because they are old parents. The dependents are old, very old. In that case, they're not ready to. The insurance companies are not ready to make new policies on them. In this case, there is a medical, whatever the if you do have some specific diseases under section, there is a Income Tax Act 1961. In this case, the normal citizen, so based on there is proof, whatever the amount you have spent, so you can claim up to 40,000 for the normal citizen. If you have the senior citizen, so you can claim that is up to 1 lakh rupees, 40,000 for the normal citizen. If you are, that is a senior citizen or dependent is senior citizen, or you can claim up to 1 lakh rupees based on whatever you actually spent other than cash. My dear friends, please do understand. So other than cash, it has to be digital. You might have paid through check or through digital, right? In this case, you can take either 40,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees as the case may be, right? Then comes section E. Most of the parents may touch this one. Educational loan. Educational loan to whom? You can take the educational loan to yourself, your spouse, child, or for any legal guardian, any student, any person. For them, you are a legal guardian. So you have taken a loan and you are paying the interest. You are paying the interest. Please do understand, there is no maximum limit for there is a ceiling limit is there. Whatever the interest there is, you are paying on the repayment of the educational loan. So you are availing this deduction under section 80E. Please do understand, my dear friends. So those who are repaying, once you have started repaying the educational loan, you are repaying the principal along with the interest. For the interest portion is deductible from your total income. Okay, so this can be carried forward for the 8 assessment year. Up to 8 assessment year, you can claim this deduction. After that, you cannot claim. Okay, the maximum limit is given to you. Maximum 8 assessment year, you can take the this benefit of that is interest paid on educational loan. Right. Then comes EE, 80EE. So if you have, so it is not for the new, that is for the present taxpayers, those who are, that is purchased the new house property. Please do understand, those who are purchased a new house property, there is a flat, you have purchased a flat during the financial year 16-17. This is in Finance Act is 16-17, they have introduced this one. So those who are, there is purchased a flat or a home, there is the value is less than 50 lakhs and the amount of loan is less than 35 lakhs, you can avail the deduction of 50,000 rupees from your there is total income, right? This is, there is 80E all about. There is interest paid on home loan, right? Sir, actually already I am availing the home loan from the house property, sir. Yes, you can avail, there is up to the limit of 2 lakhs in the house property section. If anything is there, if you are paying the interest in a particular year, you might have paid there is 2,70,000 interest. So you can take, there is 2 lakh rupees from the income from house property as deduction, and here 50,000 from 80EE. More than there is it is additional, it is extra benefit, it is extended by the government to you through the new section 80EE, right? For this year, there is a new section has been merged, that is 80EEA, 80WEA. So you have purchased, so you have not availed. First thing is, the first condition, you should not have taken any deduction in the previous 80WE, right? Now you have purchased the house value less than 45 lakhs, less than or equal to 45 lakhs, right? You should not own any residential property previously. This is going to be a new house for you. It should have been purchased in the year of financial year 19 during the last year, that is the previous year, 1920. The house property should have been bought. Another thing, the individual should not be eligible to claim, that is a deduction under section 80. So either the taxpayer can avail 80WE or 80WE. They cannot avail the both. So here the there is a deduction limit is 1,50,000 rupees. In 80WE, those who have purchased the house during 1617, for that they can avail the deduction of 50,000 rupees. Now here, so the loan should be taken. Please do understand, the loan should be taken here. So the previous year 1920, the loan should be sanctioned during the previous year 1920. In this case, you can avail the fantastic deduction of 1,50,000 in addition to the home loan of the home loan interest under the section, it is 24B, the income from house property. So you can have the deduction of 3,50,000 rupees. So in under section 24, you can claim 2 lakhs rupees, and here 80WA, there is you can claim 1,50,000 rupees. Total, you can claim 3,50,000 rupees. Please do note of it. So most of the this assessees, most of the taxpayers are not aware. So please do note of it. So accordingly you plan for your taxes, right? Then comes 80WEB. See here, this is the for promotion to the electric vehicles to eliminate the usage of the petrol vehicles. So they are encouraging solar as well as the electric vehicles. This is the section, it is purely for those who are going to buy a new electric vehicles. So the loan should be sanctioned during the year 1/4/2019, from 1/4/2019 and 31st March 2023. There are 4 years you are given. In this period, you have applied for the loan has been sanctioned. If any interest you are paying, that is deductible under the section 80WEB. Please do note of it. Please go for electric cars. It is going to be electric cars next after 10 years. It is going to be electric cars wherever you go. So there is a very, very conservative, very, very long, there is energy saving. This one, the electric cars, it is going to be a revolution in the next 10 years. So that is why for promoting there is a sale of electric cars, the government has come out of with wonderful, there is a reduction. Section 80WEB, right? Next comes beautiful section. You all are aware, there is any donations to the charitable institution. There are a very big list is given by the Income Tax Act. Different funds are there. You are giving that. See, all should be in there is a digital form, either check or through a NEFT or so you can give maximum 2,000 rupees in cash. Maximum donation you can extend rupees 2,000 rupees you can extend through cash. If it is more than 2,000, so only 2,000 is eligible. Okay, so just you go ahead and look at there is a provisions. It is 100% deductions are available for some charitable institution. 50% deduction is eligible for some there is charitable institution. You go ahead and you look once the different lists of the charitable institution. Accordingly, you plan for the donation, right? Then comes 80GG, right? So most of the some taxpayer is still there. They are paying rent. They are on there is a home other than they are not the owners. They are paying rent. They are the tenant, but they are not receiving the HRA from their employer. Please do understand, my dear friends. First one condition, you are not receiving the house rent allowance from your employer. First one. Okay. Another one, you are not owning the house, you are paying the rent. You are a tenant, you are paying the rent, you are living in the rented house, right? In this case, so you are not going to get the exemption of HRA because you are not receiving the HRA. So government has come out of this section 80GG. So those who are not receiving the HRA but they are paying the rent, in that case, for every month you can, there is a 5,000 rupees, or you can avail the deduction of total 60,000 per year. That is 5,000 rupees per month. So just to go ahead and look at this section, there are so many conditions are there. So if you are satisfied with all the conditions, definitely you can avail 60,000 rupees as your deductions, the big amount, right? So just you go ahead with them. Another thing, 80TTA. So most of the people are not aware, 80TTA, this is the interest. This is the interest from your savings bank account. Okay. This is the interest from your savings bank account. So up to 10,000 rupees, up to 10,000 rupees. So it is not, it is exempted. You can take the deduction out of this interest from your savings bank account. You have the savings bank balance. If your amount is the, say for example, your total interest for this year is 30,000 rupees. So only 20,000 is that is taxable. You can deduct 10,000 rupees under the section 80TTA. Please do understand. Only individuals are eligible. Okay, so you can take all the savings bank account. The normal citizens or whatever you are having the account in the post office or any cooperative society or a bank. Please do understand. You can have the savings bank account in banks or post office or cooperative societies, and up to 10,000 rupees you can have the deduction, right? Then comes, there is a for the senior citizen. So I told in the 80TTA, I told only savings bank account. But in case of senior citizen, please do understand, my dear friends, in case of senior citizen, you are getting the interest from the fixed deposit also. In a year, 50,000 rupees you can claim as a deduction under section TTB, right? This is a special section. This is the government has come out of this for giving the additional advantage to the senior citizen. Whether they have the term deposits or fixed deposits or any savings account, the total amount of 50,000 rupees you can deduct from your salary, right? It is applicable for only senior citizens. Okay. Then comes, there is the most, there is a, if the taxpayer, individual, himself is a disabled person. In that case also, you can enjoy the 75,000 rupees or 1,25,000 rupees. Sir, how can I decide whether I'm having the normal disability or severe disability? You have to submit a medical certificate from the medical central government medical practitioner or any state government medical practitioner. You have to obtain a certificate citing all your disabilities, and the respective medical practitioner has to certify these are all the disabilities. This assessee, this taxpayer comes under the normal disability. If they comes under normal disability, they can claim 75,000 under this section, because the taxpayer himself is going to deduct. Sir, I'm having the dependent, he is also a disabled. Yes, you can take for yourself 75,000. For your dependent, my child is having some disability. Yes, you can take 75,000 for yourself, for 75,000 for your child or any dependent, whether he may be or a brother or sister. You can avail 75,000 plus additional 75,000. If you have the severe disability, in that case, you can go for 1,25,000. No need to show any receipt. I have spent this much of amount. No need at all. So directly you can claim 1,25,000 showing the disability, right? Then comes the, so okay, sir, These are the I have not aware of these investments, these deductions. What can I do? 1920 has been gone. So all the investment, please, my dear friends, these 80C investment, these 80 investments has to be made in the there is previous year itself. That is for that the 1920 itself. But due to this scenario, that is COVID scenario, we are facing a lot of problems. We are in such a there is a conditions. We cannot go out. We cannot make any investment. We cannot even go to the bank also. In these situations, the government has come out of this new notification. They have extended the date. So as per the general practice, up to 31st March 2020 is the last date. So within that date, you must have invested in some other, there is investment under section 80, C, 80, D, whatever may be the thing. But here, the government of India has come out with some, for giving some benefits to the taxpayers. They have extended the period to 31st July, this month last. Still you have some amount, another 15 or 16 days. You can invest. If you have not invested in any of these deductions, please, my dear friends, you go and invest all this. Just you go once all the provisions, and accordingly you can plan. You can go with the equity linked saving schemes or PPF. You can have the time to invest, right? So the government has the extended time. So for the 1920, it is not for there is. I'm talking about 2021, my dear friends. I am talking about the financial year that is last year, previous year, 1920. Those who are not invested, those who are not planned for their reductions, please go ahead and you have another 16 days. You can take new policies, you can take new investments, you can take so many things, right? So capitalize these benefits extended by the government of India, right? So previously there are one slab system is there up to 2,50,000 rupees. There was no the exempted. So 2,50,000, those who are earning the income of 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs rupees, they supposed to pay 5% of total income, then 20%, 30%. This was earlier slab system. Now the Honorable Finance Minister has come out of with the new tax slab rates this year. In February, everyone got excited, everyone got surprised with the new tax rate system. They have nearly 6 to 7 new tax rates. They have the slabs have been extended, but there are so many drawbacks also there. There are so many positive, there is points also there, right? So you have to submit the declaration form to your employer for the college or university. Accordingly, they will deduct the tax from your salary. I'm telling you, so this is the right time. You have to choose which tax there is a structure you are going to adopt, whether it is a yearly tax system or there is a new tax system which is as per the Finance Act 2020. So what is all about? There is a yearly tax structure and new tax structure, right? Let us see. The taxable income slabs. I'm going to compare what are the existing tax rates. Still it is on. My dear friends, you can go for that is yearly the previous tax rate regime also. Otherwise, you can opt for new tax rate regime also. What are all the benefits? What are the drawbacks? Let me explain. In existing tax rate, if you opt for existing tax rate system, you have only there is 3 rates. One is 5%, 20%, and directly 30%. See, up to there is a 2,50,000. There is it is common for there is a both system, both regime. It is common. There is no rate. 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs. It is 5%. It is the same for the both system, right? 5 lakh to 10 lakh. Directly 5 lakh to 10 lakh. 5 lakhs next to 5 lakhs. Directly 20% in the earlier system, but here they have come out with the new slabs 5 lakh to 7 lakh 50,000 rupees, 7 lakh 50,000 to 10 lakhs rupees 15%. The 10 lakhs to 12 lakh 50,000. So in the earlier system, If your income is more than 10 lakhs, directly you are charged 30% directly, right? Now we come out with the new three system. There is a three slabs. If your income is between 10 lakhs to 2 lakh 50,000 rupees, 20% of tax is charged. 12 lakh 50,000 to 15 lakhs, 25% of income tax is charged. If it is more than 15 lakhs, it is 30% as per the new. Okay. So what is the major drawback of the new tax regime? Please do understand, my dear friends. Please do listen to me. In existing tax rate system, they do have different deductions under certain different exemptions. HRA, so many exemptions, 70 exemptions or so many deductions are there in existing tax rates, right? But this is the major drawback for the new tax rate. You are not going to avail this one. If you choose this one, no deductions are available. If you choose the new one, that is as per the Finance Act 2020, if you act this tax regime, so you can have these different rates. There is a list rates, 5%, 10%, 15%, 20, 25, 30. Okay, you can enjoy. But you cannot avail the standard deduction of 50,000. You cannot avail any exemption. You cannot avail any, that is ATC benefits. You cannot avail ATCCD. You cannot avail National Pension Scheme. You cannot avail any deduction. That is a major drawback. Okay, you may. So you have to analyze which for your income, as per your savings. If you have the savings of, if you have the savings, there is a housing loan you have. If you have the investments in insurance policy, unit linked the insurance scheme, you have the equity shares, you have the post office scheme, you have the fixed deposit for 5 years. In this case, analyze. You do analyze which, that is a regime you have to act. Then you have to submit the declaration to your that is employer, which is the final tax rate. Accordingly, please deduct the tax from my salary, right? So you supposed to give the declaration. Accordingly, they will deduct a salary from your salary, right? So we are coming to the concluding to my speech. So please do. This is a very, very, very lengthy process. So it definitely requires a patience. You have to sit. You have to go through all of the provisions. You have to one hand. You have to keep all the investments. Sir, I don't have any investments. What should I do? Okay, if you don't have the investment, directly you go with the new tax rate regime. If you have the investments, if you have the home loan, if you have the tuition fees for your children, if you have the mediclaim, so it is advisable you go with you stick with the existing tax rate system, right? So this is what I can feed. So please do understand, I am not a tax consultant. I am also a salaried employee. So from my personal experience, I am sharing my knowledge to you all. Okay. So this is the concluding remarks. So accordingly, you plan. So definitely, I hope this session will give you some enlightenments. Thank you very much, the principal sir and the HOD of Commerce, EGS Play College. They have given me such a wonderful opportunity to share my knowledge with you all. Thank you. Over to principal sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, 3 questions are asked by the participants to chat box, sir. Sabapati, sir. Hello. Sabapati, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Shall I audible, sir?
Yes. Audible.
Sir,
So,
there are 3 questions raised by the participant. I ask one by one, sir.
Okay.
Sir, Dr. Arun Upadhyay is asking one question. For housing loan, which method of tax calculation is beneficial between old method and new method of income tax? Shall I repeat the question, sir? Hello.
So I think I am
Shall I
right.
repeat the question,
The
sir?
question is whether which tax there is system
For
I have to
housing
go.
loan,
This is your question, right? So you please do analysis. You do analysis. What is your investment? If you have the home loan, please do understand. If you have the home loan on your name, section 24, you can have the 2 lakhs rupees you can deduct, and 80 you can deduct. If you have investments like this, definitely you can go for the existing earlier tax system. See, if you don't have the type of any investments, in that case, it is advisable to go with new structure of tax. Hello, so am I audible to you, sir? Actually, sir, I am not able to listen you, principal, sir. So,
Sabapati sir.
one question is
Switch on the
on the
video,
start.
sir.
So, what is the upper limit of claim? See here, medical claim. With respect to medical claim, medical expenses, it is 40,000, 1 lakh rupees. It is if you are normal citizen, it is limited to 40,000. For that, you have to show your hospital expenses, and if you are a senior citizen, you can avail the hospital expenses up to 1 lakh rupees. But you should have the proof, the documentary evidence, whatever you have spent. Okay.
Sir, another question.
Sir, am I audible, sir? Principal, sir, the question raised by you, I could not listen to you because your audio is not clear. So I could not. No, there is a technical problem in your audio. I cannot hear you properly, sir.
Sir, please stay on the line, sir. I will ask another question, sir. Sir, now I am audible, sir. Sabapati sir, now I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, another question raised by Porkodi Shanmugam, sir. Any new provision in the assessment year 2020 and 2021, sir? Another question asked by Porkodi Shanmugam. Any new provision in the assessment year 2020 and 21? Because due to COVID situation, any of the provisions to be included in the assessment year 2021? I think so. He is asking such question. I think so.
Sir, please use headphones, sir. I am not able to hear you. Please, you just post your question, sir, please, to me. No. What is your question, please, sir? Just to post me the questions, because now your audio is facing some problem. There is a technical problem. I could not listen to you, sir. I could not hear you properly. Please.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will post it. Sir, now I'm audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, I think your network is lost. I think so. That is why again I cannot hear you, sir. Please, please, sir, please post type your question, sir. I can see the chat box, please.
Any new provision in the sir? Hello? Sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
Sir, now I'm audible. Sir, one question raised by Porkodi Shanmugam. Any of the new provision in the assessment year 2021, sir? Due to COVID situation, any of the provision to include in the assessment year 2021? I think the participant asking this question, I think so, sir.
Assessment year 2020, due to
Any
the
of the new
COVID-19,
provisions?
what is the
Any
question?
any new provision in the assessment year? Any
Any new
assessment,
provisions?
any new
No, they
any
have extended. Yes, sir. Yes,
ah,
sir. Actually, the date for filing the ITR returns was 31st July. They have
okay.
extended to November 30. You have the time of another 4 months. So they have extended the date of filing your return. Okay. So
Okay, sir. Okay.
just I want to add one more thing. If your net taxable income is less than 5 lakhs, it is 5 lakhs only, you will get the rebate amount. No need to pay any taxes. If your taxable income, what is taxable income? After deducting all the
The
deductions,
deductions.
if your taxable income is more than 5 lakhs, in that case only you have to pay taxes. If it is 5 lakhs, if it is less than 5 lakhs, you no need to pay taxes. You will get the rebate under section 787A. Okay.
Sir, another question
So yes.
posted by Dr. Patil Kalinath Sharanappa. What is the difference between the tuition fees, which is going to be exempted, and tuition fees, which we are considering under section 80C?
So exempted, exempted means we are not even there is a considering that income. There is a tuition fees, there is a child education allowance, whatever you are paying the tuition fees, 100 rupees per child. So maximum 2 child, 2,400 directly you are not deducting. It is not a part of the gross total income. It is exempted. It is not the part of the gross total income, GTI.
Hello, sir. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Natarajan, for giving me an opportunity to be part of the tax planning seminar and webinar. In fact, I should appreciate the team, especially all the participants who have joined us from different locations. Today we talk about tax planning. We should obviously understand what is the difference between tax planning and tax evasion. In fact, Mr. Sabhabadi was really good in understand to what are things which has been done. Yeah. Sabhabadi, thank you very much for coming back. I think there was some network issue, so I thought of continuing. And there were some questions which were being raised by the team. Yeah, I can hear you, Sabha. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're very much audible. Am I audible to you? Sabhabadi, are you able to hear me? Sabhabadi, can you hear me?
I think there is some problem. I think so. Please do confirm whether I am audible to you, please, sir. Can anyone please do confirm? Hello. Yes, actually the question is deductions. Apart from GTA, gross total income, apart from GTA, so the deduction is you are deducting from the GTA, but exemption before arriving the GTA, you have eliminated, you have deducted that amount. So the exempted amount is not the part of gross total income. That is the difference between the exemption. Exemption, it is not a part of the income. It is exempted. For arriving at the gross total income, the exempted, whatever the HRA exempted, it is not a part of income. It is exempted. For arriving the gross total income, the exempted figures are it is fully omitted for arriving the gross total income. Once you arrive the gross total income, then you go for deductions. Okay, so if tuition fees is concerned, you can take the exemption of 2,400 rupees as well as, so you can take the deductions of there is 1,50,000 rupees in there is ATC. Okay, the ATC also you can deduct, and exemption also you can avail up to 2,400 rupees. 2,400 rupees, it is not a part of the gross total income. Okay, after deducting the 2,400, whatever you have arrived, that is gross total income. After arriving the gross total income, we go for deductions. Okay, so you have paid 1,60,000 rupees towards tuition fees. 2,400 you might have enjoyed in exemption. Then 1,50,000 you might have enjoyed in ATC. Okay, this is the difference, sir. I hope I answered your question, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, there's a question which has been asked again. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
What happened? Like
Echo sound is coming, sir. Echo sound.
No. There's another login which has happened. What is the status of people who have no income, or they are not able to? Should they register or should they file returns? Should everyone file returns even though they are not able to meet the slab rates? For example, my income is only below 3 lakhs.
No, sir. No, sir. So if you have, sir, if you have the exempted limit of 2,50,000 rupees, it is your income. In that case, no need to file return. If you are earning more than 2,50,000 rupees, you have to file a return. Even, sir, there is no tax liability because I am earning 5 lakhs only. So how do you avail the 87A rebate? There is no tax at all, but you have to file. In the filing only, directly the government is giving. So you are, for example, your income is 4,90,000 rupees. You are filing, so your taxable income comes to 4,90,000 rupees after deductions, everything. You are filing. Automatically, the system has been framed like that. It will show zero. Directly, the 87A rebate is applicable. Your tax, the tax payable will be automatically zero, sir. Okay, so if you are earning more than 2,50,000 rupees, you supposed to file ITR 1. Okay, if you are having the other incomes, if you have only salaried income, the ITR 1 you have to file. If you have the capital gain, if you have some other income from other sources, from other there is a business or profession, you have to go and file ITR 2. Okay, for the salaried people, I have only one source of income from salary only, so you have to file ITR 1. Okay.
Fine, sir. Similarly, there's another question which has come up from a research scholar. The research scholar asks, I am not a salaried person, but I am getting stipend for the period which I work, which is above 5 lakhs. Should I file returns? Did you get my question, sir?
It depends on, sir, how you are getting the stipend for the research work.
Yes, sir. For research work.
You are a scholar.
So, for example, I am a
research scholar.
So when I take up research, they gave me stipend. So during that, I get an income above 5 lakhs. Should I file returns? I am not salaried. I am still under a student model.
It is, sir, you are getting a stipend. So as a research scholar, right, no, sir? Please do understand, even though you are getting the stipend as a research scholar for the higher educations like PhD, whatever the in IIMs also, they are getting the fellowship. Fellowship, they are doing their, it will be considered as the income only. It is a deemed income only. You're supposed to file written on that.
Fine, sir. Thank you, sir. Actually, there are lots of questions coming up on the chat. It's already, we have crossed a longer period. I think, thank you very much for your time. In fact, if we keep on long, I will try to mail you up the questions and we'll try to answer all the people who have asked us the question in the chat box. And however, an instruction to all the participants that within half an hour to 1 hour of time, you will be suited up with a mail with the feedback link to generate certificate. On behalf of the management, on behalf of the principal, on behalf of the Department of Commerce, I take this opportunity to thank our guest, Mr. Sabapathy sir, who has been with us for almost 2 hours in spite of your busy schedule, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, and we hope to see you in many other events also. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.